Welcome back. Well, today we're going to take a look at the second half of the Bedford Antiques trip that I made on Friday, and look at some of the other stuff that I picked up as well as some of the other stuff I didn't. So when we come back. Well, Audie is not going to be with us today. I scared him. I was working outside today, and I came in, and of course my glasses are, they have photochromic lenses, transitions, so they're dark when I'm outside in the sun, and then they lighten up when I come in. Well, I tripped over a black cat, and my glasses hadn't changed quickly enough, and well, to be honest, I can't even really blame the glasses because I'm blind, Tripping over a cat is sort of a way of life for me. But Audie didn't like it, ran away, and came back out almost immediately thereafter and hopped into my lap so that I could tell him I was sorry because he expected an apology. And then I went out again later, came back in. He was in the same spot he had been in before when I tripped over him, but he looked up, saw me, and ran. And that's the last I've seen of him. So I think I have traumatized my cat. He'll get over it. I mean, he always does. But for the moment, he's just not a happy boy. All right, so when I was at Bedford, after the first half of the shopping trip, the second half, I started going through some of the booths that are on the first floor in the north side. That's the area of the first floor that's furthest away from the register, but I find all kinds of really neat stuff in there. So I went to two of the booths where I have often found really interesting salt and pepper shakers in the past, and I got some nice finds. So let's take a look. So we've gone back to my favorite little salt and pepper shaker booth. These appear to be little beehive houses. Price on this is $4. $6 on these little bouquets of flowers on a little stand. So, coming with, same shop, 2 sets of duck shakers, $4 a piece. And I can't even keep these things in stock. They go so quickly. So, oh yes, coming home. Those salt and pepper shakers were just really cute. And I find I never have any trouble selling the little animal salt and pepper shakers. People like them, especially the birds, the little ducks and whatnot. They just seem to resonate with people. So, gee, if they're going to sell them to me, I'm going to buy them. And following that, I went to a booth across the aisle from that booth that also has a lot of salt and pepper shakers. Now, it's a mixed bag over there. I got the salt and pepper shakers that are currently sitting on my stovetop that have salt and pepper in them, and, these are the ones that I use. They are my own. They came from that booth, but most of what they have in that booth are souvenir salt and pepper shakers from places like Florida and Hawaii. Yeah, those are tourist states. Maybe that's why all the salt and pepper shakers, not just in their booth, but when I see souvenir salt and pepper shakers, most of them are Florida or Hawaii. Those I just decline those. In general, people are not interested in somebody else's souvenirs. Souvenirs are keepsakes of a trip. And, you get them, it's, I got this when I was in New Mexico or whatever. And they're sort of memory joggers for you. You see the salt and pepper, you remember the trip. They're very personal items in that sense. And as a general rule, your buyers do not want your souvenir salt and pepper shakers. I find once in a while, if they have really interesting designs, or if the souvenir name is small and discreet, people will go after them. But in general, this is not something that sells well for me. However, they did have 2 sets of salt and pepper shakers at this booth that I did get. Here you go. Well, this is another booth where I've found salt and pepper shakers in the past. In fact, the salt and pepper shakers that sit on Ezra, my stove, came from this booth. And now we've got this wonderful set of ducks. Now, the price is $10, which puts it pretty high on the scale of what I pay for salt and pepper shakers. But they're great, so I'm going to go for it because somebody is going to be delighted to have them. Unfortunately, they're going to be priced higher than most of my shakers, but ouch, what can I say? Same shop. These shakers are vintage, not antique. Definitely pre-2000. Chinese. Really cute. Not to mention very large and therefore very useful. And the set is $5. Oh yeah. So why those 2 and not anything else? Well, the ducks were just big, comical, beautifully painted Japan. I love the way they glazed. I have to admit, I'm a complete sucker for this. Mid-century Japan glazing with those pastel colors when they changed the saturation, where you'll have a deeply saturated pink in one area, and then it fades off into a pale pink and then moves into a blue or something. The work they did with that is just fabulous. I look at that. That's art. And it's art in a salt and pepper shaker. So those big ducks are just great. They're comical. They're beautifully done. I couldn't resist. Yes, they are more expensive than my usual salt and pepper shakers, which means they're going to be more expensive when they go into my shop. But I'm pretty sure that I'm not the only person who's going to look at them and say, oh, those are just nifty. The other shakers have handles and that nice sort of cottage motif. Now, the cottage motif on those salt and pepper shakers, it's super, because that is a design that the mid-century Japanese artisans used for all kinds of things. When I was at Bedford, I grabbed a tea set in that same general pattern. It's just a thing they did that they really did very well. So I think the other set, the cottages set, are probably going to very easily find themselves a buyer too. Also, because they have a handle, they're going to be easy to use. They are going to be like my set on top of the stove. Not a table salt and pepper shaker, but the salt and pepper shaker you keep next to the stove for cooking. That used to be much more of a thing in our mother's generation than it is now. But in our mother's generation and our grandmothers, there were salt and pepper shakers on the stovetop or near the stovetop that you used for cooking, and then something that was a little nicer and a little more elegant and a little more dainty that you put on the table. These days, I don't know. I just don't see that much anymore. But frankly, I think the way people are entertaining today is probably very, very different from the way we were entertaining years ago. Nowadays, entertaining is just as likely to be done in the kitchen or at the breakfast bar, whereas in my generation, when I was young, it was at the dining table and nobody dared go in your kitchen. Kitchen was off limits. But I think sometime in the 80s or 90s, with that whole great room concept, where there was just like one giant open space, it became more normal for people to entertain in a casual style in the kitchen, at the breakfast bar, whatever. Um, Socialization changed. But then again, by the time we hit the 80s and 90s, women were well established in the workforce, which was not the case in the 50s and 60s. So it's hard to work all day long and then come home and do a fancy candlelight dinner in the dining room. It's a lot easier to just lay everything out in the kitchen and let people help themselves. So I think that may be somewhat responsible for it. Anyway, so much for different kinds of salt and pepper shakers. Um, Next piece, right here. This is the piece of jewelry I bought. So let me show you in the store. Okay, well, you all know how fond I am of vintage celluloid. They're setting up here, let me show you. They're setting up here for an antique jewelry show, and they opened a case for me very kindly, and look at what is coming home with me. Beautiful, delicate, very intricately carved celluloid. But here's the thing. I got to get this just right so you can see. I will check the video on this, and if this does not come out in the video, I'll take a still picture and blow it up for you. This is somebody's photograph. So I'm assuming the woman who originally owned this piece, this was the love of her life. Is this fabulous or what? Now, this is not going into my Etsy shop. This is going around my neck, frankly. But I did want you to see that before it got packed away. Well, I have done some cleaning on the piece. I'm not satisfied with the extent of the cleaning I've done. I'm going to do some more. The piece is dirty. It's still dirty, and quite frankly, it's not the sort of thing I would have put on except for the video, because I do want you to see it. It's a beautiful piece. I am happy with it. At $50, I feel I got a good price. At over $100, I would want it cleaned. What can I say? But she gave me a very good price for it. I'm happy with it. And I want to show you some close-up pictures because I don't think you can see what is in the middle of this little piece here. So let me show you. Okay, I also showed you some of the celluloid chain so you can see how finely detailed that is. And also so you can see that it's kind of dirty. And that's after my first cleaning. So it's going to need another cleaning, but you can see it's still dirty. So I don't know who this guy is here. I guess he is the love of someone's life, or was the love of someone's life, because this piece is undoubtedly at least 100 years old. I think he has gone to the great beyond long ago, but that's okay. If I find that having a picture of an old dead guy around my neck is too stressful for me, then I can tell you exactly what's going to happen. I am going to get in touch with some of our viewers who do jewelry fabrication and repurposing, and I am going to ask them for some advice in setting a piece on top of this. Some kind of little cabochon gemstone that will probably cover up the portrait and make me less squeamish about some old dead guy around my neck. But hey, who knows? Maybe I'll be fine with it. Next up, this is something that did not come home with us, but it was at the Lutz booth that's in Bedford. So let's take a look. Now we're taking a look at this piece from a distance so you can see the whole thing. And now we're going to move in and take a look at the glass. There was a design here that has been worn off over time, but this is a beautiful piece. This is the Lutz booth, and it looks to me as if an enterprising individual such as myself could probably easily remove that glass and send it off to Arizona, assuming I could persuade someone to redo the paintwork. What do you say, Lisa? $185. Beautiful Art Deco era cabinet. One of these days, I really am going to get one of those interesting Art Deco kitchen cabinets. They're useful. These cabinets were in vogue before cabinets were attached to the kitchen walls. Now, you're probably thinking, but wait, cabinets were attached to the kitchen walls a long time ago. Yeah, they were attached to the pantry walls. Usually what happened back in the turn of the century is you would have built-in cabinets in the pantry, but not the kitchen, because the pantry was where food was stored, the kitchen where it was prepared and eaten. And then we switched that at some point, probably space considerations. As our houses got smaller, we no longer had pantries. The cabinets had to go into the kitchen, and we had combinations of freestanding cabinets like the one that you saw at the Lutz booth, and built-in cabinets, the kind you would have seen 20 years earlier in a pantry. So that cabinet represents a time in our kitchen decorating history when styles were in flux. And I love them. I think they're great. And I certainly wouldn't mind getting one. I certainly wouldn't mind sending off whatever the glass or wood panel with the designs were, sending it off to Arizona, to Lisa, saying, help me out on this and get me some kind of pretty Art Deco design. And the reason it wouldn't trouble me to have the design redone is these cabinets were painted and repainted many, many times in their lifetime. The cabinet I showed you, if you notice the hinges, you can see where they were painted over. So rather than looking at it as destroying the original piece, I would look at it as bringing it back to what it would have looked like originally, a reclamation more than anything else. Next up, this is an interesting booth. This booth has a lot of pretty and engaging little items, but their prices tend to be fairly high. Nevertheless, I wanted to show you around because there were a few things I thought might catch your interest, even though they didn't come home with me. Now, I've gotten some good deals in this booth in the past. Lovely pieces. Ooh. Great Nortaki plate, and this plate, yep, Nortaki, $16. Good for a retail price, definitely a little high in terms of my needs, but a lovely piece. That pitcher, $20. Let me turn that around a little. Beautiful piece, $20, good retail price. This is a wonderful little piece. Japanese lusterware with ducks, and the price is $15. Not bad, but I bet you're wondering what it is. It's a hat pin holder. That was really a very, very big deal in the past. Women wore hats, they had to use pins to keep the hats in place, and they came up with some incredible little holders for these hat pins. Okay, but one piece did come home with me from that shop. So here, take a look. This is a wonderful little pitcher. Nortaki lusterware. It's small. Here it is next to my hand for some scale. Beautiful piece. At $6.50, it's coming home with me. That was just a sweet little Nortaki creamer. I thought it was delightful. And I like the Nortaki styles when they are unusual, and this creamer was. The blue is not a really common color with Nortaki, so I was happy to have that. And speaking of blue, the last shop we're going to go into was just some wonderful, rustic-looking American country style pottery. So I got 3 pieces there. So take a look. Well, here we have another pitcher in that wonderful American country style. Big, heavy, hand-thrown look to it. Nice, sort of rustic American country piece. $10. Now, $10 is a very good price for this. I need to think about it. Same booth, wonderful mug, same blue pattern, $5. I don't need to think about this. Oh, look, he's got a little friend. You know, it's nice to be able to offer your customers a choice, especially pieces that are so very similar. Okay, here's the other mug, as you can see. Similar, but a choice. So, both of those will be coming. $7 left in, so we know hand-painted Japan. nice size. What are we looking at? About 6 or 7 inches. This is a tea set. $15. Here's our pot, our creamer, our sugar. That little cottage design that had been very popular a while back. Again, this is a Japan set. Let's see. Yes, there we go. Japan set, very, very popular. And, yeah, I think it's going to come with me. Pieces like this, they sell. They sell in my Etsy shop, even though I have to charge shipping for them because they tend to be quite heavy. And so, of course, if they're going to California, it can be expensive to ship them out there. What can I say? Post office prices are going up. They're never going down. But people like them. And if I can get a mug for $5, that means I can sell it for under 20 and somebody will end up with a mug, you know. Usually I can do it well under 20. Somebody will end up with a mug in a nice American country style that they like, that we have here in abundance in Pennsylvania, that tends to be a little scarce in other parts of the country. And we've talked about that before. It all depends on where you live. We have the American country pieces because this is Pennsylvania Dutch country. There's farm folk here. This is the style they want. If someone opens a local pottery, this is the style they're going to make. Meantime, there are other parts of the country. The Midwest has Art Nouveau furniture that's just to die for. I'd love to see some of that around here. But that's the way it is. It's just the nature of the beast. So I hope you have enjoyed that. I am going to spend the next couple of days working to get that stuff all cleaned up and popped into my Etsy shop because that's where I start to. I love the buying. I really do. And I don't even mind the cleaning and prepping, but for some reason, when it comes time to do the listing, I can be very, very lazy. So I got to work on that. All right. As you can see, the sun is going down and my light is fading once again because different time of year. I'm going to have to start filming earlier in the day, I think. All right. Meantime, have a fantastic day. I will see you on Wednesday with Wordy Wednesday.